This video is going to show you how to start off a Afghan with a single crochet stitch all the way through the Afghan. And what you need to do is grab your hook and your yarn. Normally yarns recommend a hook size on the label, so just grabbing the hook size that's recommended. We want to make our slip knot. Now there's plenty of ways to do this, but the way I do it is holding our short piece, I wrap it over my finger, wrap it over again, and hold the long tail. I grab this piece and bring it over the top and off my finger, grabbing the long piece again, wrapping it over, grabbing the left one and pulling it over and off my finger and down and pushing up. That creates our slip knot. So putting our loop on our hook, you want to make a chain as wide as or as long as you want your blanket. So let's just pretend that I'm going to make my blanket for a Barbie doll. And as we know, Barbies don't need very big blankets. So this is how wide I want my blanket, and you might have 50 chains, 200 chains, it doesn't really matter how many chains you start with. And this is what we need to do. Now we need to go into the second chain from the hook. The one on our hook we don't count. So our first one is here. There's our first one, and there's our second one. So we're going into the chain and pulling up a loop. We have 2 on our hook, yarning over, pulling it through 2. That is how we complete our single crochet. We go into the next chain. We're going into the flat side of the chain. If we turn our chain over, it has bumps on it across the top. So we're not going into that side, we're going into the flat side, where all the V's are. If we turn it this way, we have little tiny V's. So we're going into the next stitch. So putting our hook into the next stitch, yarning over, pulling up a loop. We have 2 on our hook, yarning over, pulling through both loops. Going into the next stitch, putting our hook into our chain, yarning over and pulling up a loop. We have 2 on our hook, yarning over and pulling through 2. Going into our next chain, yarning over, pulling up a loop. We have 2 on our hook, yarning over and pulling through 2. Now you'll find that the first couple of rows are the most fiddliest on any blanket or any project really, because you don't have much to hang on to. And what we need to do is just go into every stitch that we have on our chain until we come to the end. And I'm just going to keep going because I don't have many stitches for my blanket. And this is the same if you wanted to make a scarf as well. You'd make a chain as long as you want your scarf, and then start this process and keep crocheting until it is wide enough. So I'm up to my last chain, so we go into the chain, making our single crochet. We now have our first row complete. Of course yours is probably going to be a lot longer than my Barbie size blanket. For our next row we want to chain up 1, because it's a single crochet. We just use 1 chain. And then we turn our work, so we spin our work around and we are going to work back along the row. Now because we've done our chain 1, this counts as our first stitch. So this is our first stitch here, so we do not go into that one because we've already got our chain there, which counts as our first stitch. So we go into our next stitch. So we go into the stitch, and what you'll have is 2 loops over the top there. So we've gone into the stitch, wrapping our yarn, we've got 2 loops, wrapping our yarn, now we pull through both stitches. Both loops, on our hook. And then we just go into each stitch across. Now see how we've got these little holes here? That is what we're going to go into. So working into there, and you will know if you've done it right, because when you go into there we have 2 stitches on the top. So going into the next stitch, pulling up, and then we have 2 loops, pulling through all 2, and then we continue this all the way across until we get to the other side of our blanket. I'm just going to keep filming because, as you already know, my blanket's not very big. Now when we come to the end, it might look like we only have 1 stitch left, because we go into there, we have 2 loops across the top. It looks like there's only 1 left, but actually there's 2, because we have to crochet into our chain 1 that we did on our previous row. So I will go into this stitch, now we need to go into the chain 1. Now it's not very obvious because it's only 1 chain, but it's here. So we need to go into, and it is a little bit fiddly. So we're going into that stitch, pulling up a loop, completing our stitches normal, and pulling through 2. If we don't complete this last stitch, or if we don't do our first stitch right, it won't be even on our sides, and it'll either end up as a triangle or it'll get wider if we do too many stitches. So a good way is to maybe count along your stitches. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So let's try this for our next row. So chaining up 1, so that's the first stitch, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this looks like there's only 1 there, so that's 9. If we don't go into this last one, because that's number 10, we would have had a triangle by the end when we finish, because each row would have got 1 less stitch. So now we just continue this method until our blanket is as big as you like it, or if it's a scarf or anything really, you just keep going until it is wide enough. Don't forget, we chain 1 at the end of our row, and we turn our work, and then going into the second stitch, which is there, because our chain 1 counts as our first stitch, and then single crochet all the way across, and not forgetting to go into our chain space. Now I hope that can help you start off a single crochet blanket, and thank you for watching, and I hope you have a really great day.